Welcome. Thanks, everybody, for being here. This is a board meeting of the Santa Fe Public Schools Board of Education. It's July 22nd at 5 p.m. We will start, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the New Mexico flag in English and in Spanish. Then we will do our acknowledgement of tribal land, our approval of the agenda, and at that point I'll talk a little bit about how things will go tonight based on our agenda and the protocols that we're asking our candidates for the District 4 school board position to do as we go through these interviews tonight. So again, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance and salute to the New Mexico flag in English and in Spanish, as well as the acknowledgement of tribal land. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Saludo la bandera del Estado de Nuevo México, el símbolo Zia de amistad perfecta entre culturas unidas. And the acknowledgement of tribal land. We acknowledge that our Board of Education meeting is taking place on occupied indigenous land. We acknowledge the Tesuque Pueblo lands and other tribal lands on which we stand. We honor these people, past, present, and future. We acknowledge the history and ongoing colonization of where we are sitting right now in New Mexico and in our country. We acknowledge our own place in the story of colonization. Thank you very much. Superintendent, are we good with the agenda?
Board President Noble, I think we just need to make sure that we acknowledge we have an interpreter in the background, Mr. Benji Lucero. So if any individuals need those services, please see Mr. Lucero.
And Deputy Superintendent, could we ask you to cover that base in Spanish at the microphone?
Para asistencia con la traducción en español, el señor Benji Lucero te ayudará. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Madam President, I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Secretary Bose with the motion, Dr. Gonzalez with the second. Any further discussion? Oh, and just to note that Board Member Anderson is on the phone. She will be participating and asking questions. She's staying home for health reasons. And she will weigh in, so just everybody please bear with me as we go between my microphone and the phone, leaning towards the mic, which is the easiest way to do these things. So we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we've approved the agenda. We will move on now to public forum. And I believe we've welcomed this by email as well as live or in person or virtual live, I believe. So on Roman numeral 2 public forum, Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Noble, members of the board. With us tonight is our Executive Director of Technology, Dr. Neil Weaver. Mr. Weaver.
Superintendent Chavez, there are 8 members for public comment tonight, 3 via email and 5 in person. Would we like to take care of the email first or in person?
Let's do in person first, please.
Perfect. Our first speaker, I'm sorry. First, to go through the public forum ground rules. Public forum includes online and/or virtual participation as needed, as well as in-person comments when the board holds in-person meetings. Please listen and speak with respect. No uncivil conduct will be permitted. Please do not discuss any specific student who is not your own. No sharing of time. Self-monitor and observe the 3-minute time limit. I will give you a 30-second warning when your time is almost up. Excuse me. Public commentary and dialogue are allowed only during the public forum, not throughout the meeting. Please search for answers on common ground. You may speak on any topic, whether it is on the agenda or not. Your input will be taken into consideration. Please be advised that the board may discuss your issues during the meeting, but by law, the board cannot take action on items that are not on the agenda. Please do not discuss employee matters which may result in disciplinary action. Instead, notify the employee's supervisor, the Human Resources Department, or the superintendent. And our first guest is Nisa Gallegos.
And just while she makes her way to the podium, this is something that our former Vice President and School Board Member Rudy Garcia was very good at, but I want to acknowledge former school board member and Representative Linda Trujillo, who I had the pleasure of serving on this board with, as well as former City Councilor Roman Abeta, who is, of course, one of our candidates for the position tonight. And truly want to, most of all, welcome everyone from District 4 who's here. Lots of folks turning out to represent District 4 and have voices heard, and just say we really appreciate that, as well as everyone else who is tuning in. Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Nisa Gallegos. Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Chavez, district staff, and members of the community. Thank you for this opportunity to make a statement on behalf of our community. My name is Nisa Gallegos, and I am a senior at Capitol High School. I am also a community leadership intern with Earth Care. Throughout this internship, I and 25 other youth are involved in various community organizing and social development campaigns and projects, mostly focused on the South Side, but some also statewide. Several of us have been involved for several years, and our most successful campaign to date has been Yucca, Youth United for Climate Crisis Action. An area for great concern for us is education in all its forms. The project-based, experiential, and critical education that we are engaged in this summer is giving us the opportunity to be immediate and meaningful, to have an immediate and meaningful impact on our community that very young people get to have. As a part of our community curriculum, we discussed and decided to respond to the vacancy and selection of a board member from the South Side. It was a short window within which to act, but we worked together to create a forum for the community members to be able to meet, interview, and react to the various candidates. We worked with Superintendent Chavez to get timely access to contact information for the applicants. We created a questionnaire based on the issues that our community has raised. We contacted the candidates and sent them the questionnaire. We identified a translator for their responses and interpreters for the forum to ensure language justice. We created the format for the forum and executed it very well, in my opinion. We shared a video for the forum and their responses to the questionnaire with the broader community on our website, in an e-blast, and on other social media. We then gathered to reflect on what we read and heard from those candidates in order to assess who will, 1, be most supportive of our Southside youth, family, and community development agenda. 2, can hit the ground running based on previous experience in government and direct knowledge and work experience with Southside youth and families. And 3, has the networks and relationships to be effective immediately. We have several very good candidates with all something good to offer. But after talking to the current candidates, we feel that Roman Abeta meets all our criteria. We ask you to consider our community's observations as you make your decision. We also invite you to partner with us as we engage with our families, youth, residents, merchants, and allies in building a Southside that is healthy, just, sustainable, equitable, and inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gallegos, and thanks to you and everybody at EarthCare for that forum. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rosario Torres.
Good evening. I really did not realize I was going to say anything today, but since I'm up here, I just would like to say that I'm very happy to have had the opportunity to work with ESSER funds on a summer project through EarthCare using Cesar Chavez building. In my opinion, it has really been a great program for the families that have sent their kids to us, and I hope we're able to continue to do this in following summers. We combine it on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and the number of kids that have attended have varied from as little as 6 to 20-something. And it's been a wonderful experience for me as a volunteer. And the kids have given us great feedback. The parents have also given us great feedback. So thank you to the district for having provided the opportunity to use the ESSER funds for this. And I hope we continue to work together on summer programs that are not traditional academic programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Miguel Acosta.
Madam President, members of the board, staff, and community. It's been a while since we've been able to be here, and I think out of the options you gave, I would say I'm virtually in person. Right? That's the way it feels anyway. It still feels kind of strange, right? But good to be here, and also just wanted to make some very quick, short comments. One, thank you for supporting as open a process as you could, given all the circumstances, the conditions, and the exigencies, right, of getting something in place quickly. We need it, we all need it. Not just the South Side, but the board needs to be complete, and the administration needs to have a full board. So thank you for that. And also, thank you for supporting the summer programs. I think, many people were criticizing, many out there in the community, folks that don't have kids in public schools primarily, right? Criticizing the way that the district operated their summer, or shared their summer funding. But it was the programs that, besides the two that we have the arts and culture one and a soccer project. Others that we heard about are doing amazing things. Amazing things in a way that's a little bit less formal, because whether we like it or not, when you're school staff, there's some air that comes with it, right? So it's been great. And it made me think about the importance of that. And now that there's all this criticism about the $400 million that wasn't spent for extended learning, I think we should spend that $400 million in extended learning precisely how you did it this summer. Even better, give all public school student families money to go on vacations, to know New Mexico, to expand their a lot of private school folks don't want summer school because that's when they go on trips, and they justify it as being culturally enriching and whatever, and it is. So we should do something like that, invest that money, send people around New Mexico to know all of New Mexico. Finally, so proud of our students, your students, this summer, and past summers as well. They're just an amazing crew. You can see the I don't want to say the quality, the attention that they've put on the work that they do. This process and other things that we've been engaged. They did this in a couple of days after hosting a Main Street meeting on Saturday, right, which had another like 50-some attendees. Experiential learning, project-based learning, the capstone framework, all of these things are amazing opportunities, I think, for all students, not just for those that some people deem at risk. We need to keep partnering on these and provide as many opportunities for meaningful, like she said, meaningful and impactful learning, things that are immediately felt by everyone, by them, by the communities, and by the families. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Linda Trujillo.
Good afternoon, Superintendent, Board President, board members, staff, and those of you here representing my district also, District 4. I'll have to say, when Board President, you first called on the superintendent, my head turned because that's my title with the Regulation and Licensing Department. The only thing is you went on to say intendant. My staff just calls me super, and it makes me happy every day. So you might get your staff to start doing the same, Superintendent. It's shorter, and it makes you happy. I am here to speak on behalf of my very dear friend, Juan Blea. I have worked with Juan for a number of years now, and I would just like to say that he is incredibly dependable. He is always prepared. He cares very highly about the staff. This district continues to move forward on making sure that all of our students have access to the education that is going to be appropriate for them, and I believe that Juan can bring that to the conversation. So I hope that you will consider Juan to be the candidate. There's 4 other candidates that are obviously just as qualified, but I know Juan, and I know him personally, and he is committed to the South Side. He's committed to our youth in a very tangible way. So thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of him. And you've got a tough decision that you have to make, but my thoughts will be with you as you make that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Super.
Our final speaker is Fabian Trujillo.
Board President, Superintendent, and members of the board, my name is Fabian Trujillo. Yes, I am Linda Trujillo's husband, but I'm also president of the Las Acequias Neighborhood Association, which is part of the South Side. There's over 4,300 people that are on the South Side in our neighborhood with over 650 homes. And we have several schools, and there's a lot of our students and neighbors that go on the South Side, and we are very interested in what happens here today. And so today, I am offering my support for our friend Juan Blea. We think he's he's incredible. We particularly concerned or like the fact that he is passionate about students. I also want to thank Miguel Acosta and Earth Care for putting on that forum the other night. I think after hearing all the candidates speak, there was incredible. I agree with my wife that you have a tough decision ahead of you, but I do think that Mr. Blea shines the most. We like the fact for his passion and all of the things that he stood for in helping and focusing on students. I was really impressed with a lot of his answers, and I've also had the pleasure of working with Mr. Blea at the city of Santa Fe, and I can echo a lot of the same things that were said about him. And so tonight I would hope you consider Mr. Blea for the next school board member on the south side. And again, thank you for the opportunity for speaking tonight.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Weaver, are we moving to email now?
We are.
Excellent, thank you.
Without my glasses.
And I'm guessing we don't have anyone wanting to do live online.
You are correct.
Okay.
So we have 3 email respondents tonight. The first is from Jason Kennard. Good afternoon. After reading the recent article in the newspaper of Rudy Garcia's resignation, I would like to make a suggestion for Garcia's replacement. I would like to recommend John Baca from District 4 area. He resides in the district and is a born and raised local resident of La Cienega. Baca was seeking the candidacy for SF County Magistrate Judge. Please consider his name. Thank you. The next is from Rachel Vargas Roybal. I would like to thank Board Member Rudy Garcia for his service. On another note, I would like to submit a name for his replacement to finish out his term. John Baca, who resides in the La Cienega, who resides in the La Cienega area, born and raised, which is in District 4. John Baca has strong ties to the community as a sports official with the NMAA and NCAA. Baca was a candidate for Magistrate Judge Division 2. He continues to serve his community as a part-time employee of the Rivera Family Funeral Home. He serves many families at their weakest times in life. Please consider him to finish Garcia's role as board member. And I apologize, I missed one. Our final comment is from Rick Romero. Good afternoon, School Board President. As a member and parent of District 4, I would like to make a recommendation for the District 4 position. I would like to submit John Baca's name to finish out Garcia's term. John Baca is well known in the entire community and especially that in District 4 because that is where he resides. As a law enforcement in prior years and his court experience, he would make a good person to fill this vacancy. John Baca was a candidate for magistrate judge here in Santa Fe County. As he is well known as a sports official and has major ties to our youth in sports activities. Please consider him to fill the remainder of Garcia's term. Attached is a picture of Baca that was used on all of his campaign literature for magistrate judge. And that concludes public forum.
Thank you very much, Dr. Weaver. Is there anyone else in the audience who is not a candidate for this position who would like to address the board tonight and didn't get a chance to sign up? Please. I also want to thank everyone who emailed us. I can speak for myself and my understanding of my fellow board members that we read and appreciated everything we received via email. So thank you to anyone who contacted us individually that way. And welcome. If you would please give your name and tell us what we should hear.
Thank you, Madam President and board members. My name is Karen Farina, and I did send an email, but I only sent it to the board members, so I missed sending it to the public forum. But I just wanted to share my story with everyone regarding my daughter, Shanae. My daughter, Shanae, was a student at Santa Fe Public Schools, and she had dyslexia. And that wasn't really discovered until she was in high school. And so she really struggled through the years in school, feeling inadequate, and she would say dumb, but she wasn't dumb, but she was also a very gifted athlete, and that really kept her going through her school. There came a time that she became academically ineligible to play sports, and that could have been a really turning point for her in her life, which would have been, she could have gone down a really bad road. At that time, Juan reached out to me and offered his assistance. And I, too, had worked with Juan at the city of Santa Fe. That's how I knew Juan, as in information technology. I had no idea that he had the background or experience in helping somebody like my daughter. But he came in and working with Shanae, and I don't want to take too much time, but he tutored her. He worked with the teachers at Santa Fe High to put in modifications. She eventually became eligible to play. But then the biggest challenge was that her final year, her senior year, she didn't have enough credits to graduate because of all the struggles she had through her schooling. And he asked her, Shanae, do you want to graduate with your class, or do you want to go this alternate way of being able to do online learning and graduating in the summer? And she told him, no, Juan, I want to graduate with my class, and I'll do whatever you tell me to do in order to accomplish that. And he worked with the counselors and the teachers, and they put together an almost impossible schedule. She went to school from 7 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock to graduate, and she graduated with her class of 2010. And, it's after working with Juan, and he taught her how to understand what she was learning visually, because that's how she learned. And so she started, she changed, it changed her life. She began saying, Mom, I'm not dumb, I learned differently. And just, I can never tell you how grateful I am for Juan and for him taking the time to reach out to my daughter. And he didn't take a penny for any of that. And believe me, I wanted to pay him so many times, and he would never take any money for that. So Shanae graduated on her birthday, June 4th, with the class of 2010. Happiest day of our lives. She went on to graduate in a degree in golf management, and today she is she's a mother of two, and just so successful, and so when I think of all the kids in our school that have challenges, whether it's a learning disability or other challenges in life, it's Juan Blay, and that's why I'm asking for your vote for Juan tonight. And just thank you to the other candidates that are here tonight. I just appreciate so much. I know how hard it must be to put yourself out there, and thank you to the board. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for taking the time to write us the whole story in email. Okay, last call for public forum in the room. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to our District 4 candidate interviews. We do have 5 candidates, and just to say, the order of the candidate interviews was randomly selected, and we will go in the order published on the agenda. Interview questions were provided in advance so that no candidate we're trying to make it so no candidate has an advantage over others, and everyone was given an equal opportunity to prepare for these interviews. We are asking that all but our first interviewee, Juan Blea, leave the room, and I believe, Howard at the back of the room is going to take our candidates to another room. That way we don't get the best of everyone's answers at the end. Each interview will be 25 to 30 minutes, and then we do appreciate a quick transition from everyone, and including our audience. Let's see. And I assume no one's commitment has changed to taking this position because you're here. And then for everyone else who is paying attention, we are going to do the interviews. Board members will alternate asking questions, and we will stick to the prescribed questions so that our interviews are consistent and uniform. And I will keep an eye on the time. We will not allow any of the interviews to go over 30 minutes. Then the board will discuss and possibly take action. If we need more time and consideration, that is an option. We will do all of this in an open meeting. This is not a personnel matter, as board members are not district employees, so we need to do all of this, and we'll be doing so in public. Does that sound all right to members of the board? Is there anything that you want to clarify or discuss before we move forward with our first interview? Okay, seeing nothing and hearing nothing from Board Member Anderson. Board Member Anderson, just going to check you're still there on the phone.
I am.
Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and ask Mr. Blea to come to the podium. Our other folks have headed out, and hopefully we'll be quiet in the hallways. You know, isn't that important in school or something? Okay, welcome. I'll take one moment to say to you and everybody else, thank you so much for your interest for this position. Public service is no joke. It is sometimes difficult, sometimes wonderful, sometimes thankless, and sometimes there's lots of thanks. But these are unpaid positions. We do get a per diem, and it's a lot of work for the good of the community. So we absolutely appreciate, no matter the outcome of tonight's interviews and board decision, we appreciate your putting your name in and willingness to step up and serve, and in particular represent District 4. So thank you. So we'll start with our first question, which I'll begin with, and then we'll go down the line to Secretary Bozé, Dr. Gonzalez, and then Board Member Anderson on the phone. But our first question is, why do you want to be a school board member, and what makes you uniquely qualified for this position?
Madam President, members of the board, first of all, before I answer that question, I want to say this process isn't at all scary, seeing how I'm in a room with pillars of the community, literally like heroes of mine. I want to acknowledge Mr. Morano. He has been so much of my. I've looked up to him for a really long time, and so. It's very intimidating sharing a room with somebody that I look up to so much, Superintendent Trujillo. And I also want to thank Benji Lucero for always answering my questions over the last week. He's pointed me in the right direction and just been so cordial and friendly. And so I just want to acknowledge his efforts and things like that. He has been very helpful. And so as I think about this question, and thank you, Superintendent Chavez, for setting out the questions. I think about this question, and I've been wanting to be a school board member for a really, really long time, but I wanted to focus on my social work that I do. It is vocational. I don't get paid for it, and I also wanted to, raise my son. He's now at a point in his life where he can take care of himself. He no longer needs me to be the helicopter parent that I've always been. But and so now that I'm, at a point in my life where I feel like I can give back to the community on a macro level, I want to be able to do that. I was going to run for the position anyways, regardless of whether Board Member Garcia finished his term or not. I was going to run for the position anyways. I have great mentorship. I have great people behind me, supporting me, coaching me. I believe that the school board is the highest honor, the highest level of service of the governing bodies within our community. I believe that with all that I am, I don't think that there is a more powerful governing body in terms of impact to our community. What makes me uniquely qualified for the position, I believe, is just the fact that, I have a very wide and varied background that I could bring to the position. I have extensive government experience. I am now the Chief Information Officer at Regulation and Licensing. I have built and implemented several systems. My primary focus has been in case management, clinical case management systems. I build those systems because I know that clinicians need tools to better support their clientele. And so my background in social work as well as technology does provide me a very unique perspective on problem solving. And so that's basically what I think.
Thank you. Secretary Bozay.
Thank you. What do you see as the basic purpose of the public schools, and what is the role of the school board in the fulfillment of that purpose?
Madam President, board member, this is a really, really hard question. All these questions are super hard because it just, it speaks to like the heart of who I am. And as I look at the basic purpose of public schools, it's to build leaders, whether they're community leaders, whether they're government leaders, whether they're, family leaders or just leaders of their own lives. I believe that, and that's what education means, right? Educare means to lead, and so that's the whole purpose of education, is to build leaders. And the school board, I believe, allows and enables and facilitates that development of leadership within our community. Santa Fe right now, in my opinion, is at a crossroads. A lot of the time, I kind of feel like, especially on the south side, we might be kind of, accidentally marginalizing our south side. Through no, formal intention or anything like that. But I do think that the school board really can impact and level out the crossroads and put Santa Fe back on a path towards health and towards healing and respect and community partnership. Education is not just the responsibility of administrators or teachers or school support staff. It's the responsibility of all of our community. Everybody in our city should be responsible for educating our young people. Anything could be an educative environment, whether it's a basketball game, whether it's a trip to the grocery store. If we build leaders, then we can teach our young people in every aspect, in every interaction that we do. And I believe that the school board leads that process through the enactment of policy and budget.
Okay, I have a two-part question. What do you see as the strengths of the Santa Fe Public Schools, and what are the main weaknesses? And the second one is, what are your priorities if you were appointed, and how would you approach accomplishing them?
When I think about the strengths of the public schools, I do think of Dean Gomez over at Capitol. I think his actions during the pandemic towards my nephew kind of are emblematic of the strengths of our Santa Fe public school system. He actually went to his house. The pandemic caused a lot of stress, on my niece and nephew, as it did on all our youth and all our students. But my nephew especially, he wasn't logging in and stuff like that. And so Mr. Gomez actually came to his house just to talk with him. Just to check in with him, see how he's doing, and to talk with him, see if there's anything he needed, what he could do. And Mr. Gomez and his staff really bent over backwards to accommodate my nephew. And he actually went door to door in Las Acequias. I saw Mr. Gomez kind of walking, it's like looking at a list. And he was actually going and checking in with students. And, when I saw him, I hugged him, and I just said, thank you for doing that. It meant a lot to me to see him reaching out to our young people like that, and that to me is the key strength of our public schools. There are so many dedicated teachers, support staff, administrators, coaches. I mean, it's a very passionate community, and I think that is the biggest strength. Really, is that level of care, and it can't be measured sometimes. There's no metric. I know that. In government, we have to produce metrics all the time, and numbers are so much a part of what we do, but there are some things that can't be measured, and that level of care within the Santa Fe Public Schools, to me, is its biggest strength. As far as weaknesses, I mean, the reality is that weaknesses are everywhere, right? We could go and talk about teacher shortages, all that stuff, but the reality is that it's more important to focus on the strengths of a community, in my opinion, and I think the strengths of our schools are what we're going to be able to fall back on and develop those strengths and transfer those strengths on to our student community. When we talk about students like Shanae who do have some special needs, or like my nephew who's blind, who's legally blind, I see many different people doing all that they can to reach out to the students, to bend over backwards to accommodate them. So while there are weaknesses and there are always problems, there's always going to be another, fire to put out. That's just the nature of government. That's the nature of the work. The strengths are what's going to carry through. I also believe that on the south side in District 4, there are some very specific things that we need to do. We need to build engagement, and that's my biggest kind of goal throughout this process. And if I'm selected, or whether or not I'm selected or not, I'm still going to continue doing what I do, is to try to get parents to the table, get our kids to school, have our young people understand that education is a path for them. Every time that a student does drop out, and I know several, unfortunately, who have dropped out, it actually kills me. It takes me, when I talk with the young person, they tell me that they aren't going to school anymore. It actually kills me. I can't sleep. Like, it bothers me for a few hours, and it takes me a minute to recover. And so I want to reach out to as much as I can. I want to continue to be a voice for education, and just try to build as many partnerships with community organizations as I can as a school board member.
Thank you. Board Member Anderson, you're up.
Great, thank you. And I also have a two-question question. What are the jobs and responsibilities of board members, and how would you approach the role? In other words, please describe what kind of board member you would be.
The purpose of the school board is to hire the superintendent to enact policy in accordance with state law, and also to enact the budget and budgetary priorities. That's the on the record role of the school board. But I also think that the school board does so much more, right? It represents very important people in our community, which are parents and students. That's our future, right? I mean, it's kind of corny, but Whitney Houston sang that song about kids being the future, and that's the truth. I mean, we forget that sometimes. One of the questions that Miguel and his team asked last night is, what is the biggest limitation to schools on the south side? And I said, we are. Adults, community leaders, people who haven't done enough to bring people to the table to understand the south side. So the reality is that while I will read my packet in great detail, and I will ask much smarter people for counsel, and I will talk to as many people as I can about what I don't know, because I really don't know a lot. But I have some heavyweights working with me and coaching me and teaching me, and so I feel very strongly that whatever I don't know that's in the packet, I could get the resources to learn. I will not be ignorant of any of the issues that come within the packet or just in discussions. But more than that, I will be a face. I will be involved in the district. I will be, on the streets doing what I can do as I currently am. It's just going to be in a more official capacity, and, I'll have to keep the barrio rola to a little bit of a minimum. But other than that, it'll be okay. I think that's the kind of board member I hope to be.
Thank you very much. Question 5. What do you see as the most important aspect of representing District 4 constituents when making decisions that impact all students?
Really, from my perspective, the most important aspect is understanding that I am representing people who don't know that they need representation, that they aren't involved in the schools. For them, education is not a value, either because of their background or because of whatever reason. I had this conversation, and I did share the story last night a little bit, where I was talking with the young person, and she was going from 8th grade to 9th grade, and we were talking about the mayor. We were talking about the mayor of our city, and I told her, well, and she's was very confused, and she said, what's a mayor? And I'm like, you're in junior high. I didn't say this, but I'm thinking you're in junior. So I was explaining to her, I was giving her a little civics lesson, and then I was explaining to her why it's important to know who the mayor is and what the city council does and what the school board does. And I was trying to explain it to her, and of course she got bored and, tuned me out. But the point I'm making is that it's important to continue to reach out to her parents, to different people who actually don't have education as a value. For me, education is a value. And it was because of a teacher that I have that value. I was scared to death. I was in elementary school, and I was scared to death of doing a somersault. And I did not know what a somersault was. Sounded super horrifying to me. It was scary. I'm like, what the heck is a somersault? Mrs. Pacheco knew, though, that I knew what a somersault was, but she wasn't going to be the one to tell me what a somersault was. So she called my mom because she knew my family, and she knew that we were a bilingual household, and she called my mom. So my mom said, hey, what's going on? You don't want to do a somersault. You're not wanting to do it. I said, no, I'm too scared. No, I don't want to, blah, blah, blah. She says, it's a maroma. That's all it is. A somersault is a maroma. And so Mrs. Pacheco told me, because we had to go to the gym for PE, right? We couldn't, so Mrs. Pacheco told me, see, it's a maroma. That's what it's called, a maroma. That's all you're doing. So after that, then I went to the gym and I was maromaing like a potato head all the way down, And that's the kind of thing that's what I want to do as a school board member, is provide that kind of value, because a teacher showed me that, and there is a path for that. There is a path for my engagement and my involvement when I was a kid, and that's really what I want to show people, is that education can be a path for something better. There is a role for you. There is a place for you in school. You may not see it now, but there is one, and we have to bring everybody to the table.
How do you see yourself working with the superintendent and team? Please include how you would approach dealing with community concerns and issues raised about specific schools and student experiences.
Well, first, I'm going to make sure everybody calls them super, because it does work. It makes for conversations real quick. And, when you answer the phone and say, hey, super, everybody knows it's an important call, so it's kind of cool. So, I realize that the role of superintendent, or the role of any leadership role, it's a lightning rod for criticism. There is almost no way to please everybody. There's no way to have all the answers, and there's no way to do the right thing all the time, even if all the intentions to do the right thing are there. You can do what you can do, but there are limitations. And so as a school board member, I hope to work with the superintendent to be a source of support, to be an ally, right? Because not everything is going to go hunky-dory all the time. And so to be that level of support, to partner with the superintendent to say, hey, how do we solve these problems? Because a lot of leadership is solving problems. And so that's the way I see myself working. That's the same way I work with everybody. I try to find solutions, not all the time. I mean, sometimes things are going to get kind of hairy. That's just the nature of life, and that's the nature of work. But even in those moments, to try to find common ground, to try to find solutions, to try to find a path forward. And that's really how I operate, is just to try to find those avenues towards mutual gain. Sometimes you have to negotiate, and that's fine. But that's really the way I want to work with the superintendent, is to be an ally and a source of support.
What issues do you currently feel the school board and Santa Fe Public Schools are not addressing? And do you have any solutions you hope to implement to resolve these concerns?
I mean, I think really Madam President and board member, I think the main thing that we're forgetting in District 4 is that we do have a very wide variance in our population. And we do have a very kind of unique issue. I do feel like south side of Santa Fe has kind of been forgotten by local governing bodies. I do feel like it's the place where there's cheaper dirt. And so because there's cheaper dirt down there, it's, sometimes forgotten. When you look at election turnouts for our elections, the south side doesn't participate. And I don't think that's a function necessarily of the schools or of the people or anything like that. I think it's just a matter of culture. A lot of times people don't want to participate because they're afraid of engaging with government because of fear of repercussions. What does it mean to engage with government? We're going to have an encounter with, Immigration Naturalization Services? Are our kids going to be taken away? Are we going to lose our homes? Are we going to be displaced? And I don't know that necessarily, we can come up with a catch-all to deal with all of that. But what we can do is listen, and we can be a voice, and we can be a partner with the community and say, this is a place for you, and the schools are definitely a place for you, and we will help your students develop to the best of their abilities. And not everybody learns the same way. Schools are designed from an auditory perspective. That's the primary kind of, verbal is like the main way to teach. But there's also kinesthetic learners. There's also, auditory learners. There's visual learners. There's many different ways that people think and learn and understand things, and we have to do a better job of putting multiple hooks into the classroom. And it's not really the teacher's own sole responsibility. We have to do that, and we have to find creative ways to help our youth, kind of help other youth, because our youth are our greatest asset in the schools, and we should tap them to kind of help that out and try to address those concerns, because teacher shortages are going to continue, and we aren't going to be able to have enough teachers. It's just there's just not enough, right? So we have to look for creative ways and creative solutions to put these multiple hooks in the classroom and to reach out to the students on all levels, whether they excel or whether they don't excel. I've been talking with some students in preparation for tonight and for last night. They all feel like they're on their own sometimes. Like, they go to the classroom and they have no support. Not because of the teachers. The teachers are doing everything that they can, but, they feel like sometimes they're on their own. And so we need to solve that and help them not feel like they're on their own anymore. Because they're not. There's a bunch of us. There's a whole bunch of community people out there. We just need to put them towards helping build our education.
Board Member Anderson, that's you.
How does your vision for board membership align with or differ from the mission, vision, and core beliefs of Santa Fe Public Schools, and how might you like to see this evolve?
I mean, Madam President and board member, my vision is aligned with the core values of the Santa Fe Public Schools. It's just that sometimes when we're only talking about schools, it's easy to be aligned with something. But when you're driving down and you see young people not in school, or when you see them kind of not doing what they're supposed to be doing, or just kind of being potato heads, just not engaged within the community, that's when those core values and all those kinds of things break down. I think everybody involved in the schools, I mean everyone, all has their heart in the right place towards students. There's just not enough time. There's not enough resource. There's just not enough. And so even though the visions are aligned, sometimes it's easy to get frustrated and say, we need to do more. How do we get people engaged? And that really comes down to being a face and being a voice. And so in those times when, my values and my vision don't align with Santa Fe Public Schools, well, the issue is why? What's the gap analysis between the two, and what do we have to do to solve that? And so that's really what it comes down to, is it's not always going to align, because it is easy to get frustrated, and I do get very frustrated sometimes, especially when I'm on the south side. And, I've unfortunately had to be involved with some south side violence. And the reasons why both kind of situations occurred was because, there wasn't a lot of parental involvement at home with both circumstances. And so, and I hate to say it, but one of my family members was involved, and I know what happened, and it kills me to think that, that it happened. And I don't think that it's the responsibility of the schools to take care of that. I think it's the community's responsibility. I think it was Hillary Clinton had that, it takes a village. Well, it does take a village, and we are the village, and we haven't done that. We haven't been enough of a village to our young people. We haven't shown them that the schools are important, not because the teachers are going to tell you what to do or the principal's going to kick your butt, but because it's in your best interest to understand who you are as a human being, and that's what education should do for you. So that's the way I approach the vision and core beliefs and all that good stuff.
You stated you're committed to running for this position in the next election. Please tell us about that commitment, and what do you most want the community to know about you as a candidate for this position?
Well, the most important thing to know about me is I am no one's politician. I am not a politician. I don't say the right things all the time. I'm very rough around the edges. I speak from the heart. I don't like campaigning. Not that I've ever done it, but when I've had to canvass with people, I will do it, and I will support people that that do run for office, because I think it takes a lot of guts. But I'm not, I've never sought an elected position, and even though I've been involved in government almost, whatever, I don't want to say the amount of years, but a long time. And, the school board is the only one that I would actually muster the courage and strength and commitment to actually do, just because it is so important to me. Like I said, I was going to run for this position anyway when it comes up. But like I said, the reason why it's now is because now I'm at a point in my life where I think, operating on a macro level is more important than, not more important, but an opportunity for me to operate on a macro level instead of just on, the boots on the ground level like I have for all these years. It's time that I take the lessons that I've learned on the streets, because I do consider myself a street teacher. I've even done lessons with students while they do layups because they're a kinesthetic learner. So I'm having them recite the slope formula while they're doing layups, because that's how they're going to learn. And then, it works because they remember they remember what slope is now. And so I'm not really a candidate so much as I'm a vocational educator seeking to sit on the school board. It is a calling, it's a vocation to me. I believe that education is the highest kind of calling that a person can follow. When I've seen various people in the community that I look up to doing the work that they do and being involved the way that they have been, it's been many a public event where I've cried just watching people engage with students and young people and treating them like human beings instead of people who are somehow less than because they're young. And so I see just the power. Like, everybody talks about how negative things are, but I attended the graduation ceremony on a couple weeks ago, last Monday, and man, it was just overwhelming for me to see the level of care and just the students and how they fought through. Those kids really are inspirational to me because they weren't given a lot of shot. Like, no one really kind of thought they'd do it. One in particular when I talked with them at the beginning of the year, I'm like, Hito, I don't think you're gonna. I don't know, man. Like, this is gonna be a rough battle, but he did it, man. He busted his butt. He did the tutoring, did the E2020, did all those things, and he graduated, man. And so I'm not really a candidate. I don't consider myself a politician by any means. I'm pretty sure I'll answer a question that somebody's going to say, why did you answer that question? Like, shoosh. But I will do those things because I am no one's, polished candidate. But I do very much love Santa Fe so much that sometimes it hurts. A lot of the times when, I see how things can turn out if we don't turn the ship around, it makes me cry badly because we really do have to do more to get Santa Fe on the right track again, and it's just not headed down the right path. When people tell me that Santa Fe doesn't have anything to offer them, and when they offer their arguments and I don't have something to come back with, it keeps me up. It really does. And so that's what I want people to know as a candidate, that I'm not a politician. I have no political, alliances or anything like that. I do the best I can. My intentions are always with young people in my community. I always say that if a pigeon dies on the plaza, I feel responsible, and I always will. And so that's kind of what I want people to know, is that I love Santa Fe. I don't think there's a person who loves it more than I do. They might love it equally, but not more. I love this place.
Okay, that was our final question. Thank you very much. Your passion is clear. We appreciate that.
Thank you, guys.
And just to say, you are welcome to stay in the room now. You don't need to go, as you've had your chance. So thank you for that. And we can go ahead and bring in Alba Blundis. Welcome, Ms. Blondis. We'll just give it a moment for Secretary Bozé to get back from a quick bio break.
Sure.
Okay, ready?
Ready?
We will go ahead and jump in. Welcome, Alba Blondis, and just to say again, thank you for your willingness to step up and serve. We are incredibly impressed with yours and all of the credentials of the folks who applied, and this is a difficult decision for the board, and no matter what, public service is not easy, and it's not simple, and we appreciate your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
We will go ahead and start the interview. I'll keep an eye on the time and speak up if we get behind, but otherwise we will start this time with the first question from Secretary Bozé.
Good evening. The first question is, why do you want to be a school board member, and what makes you uniquely qualified for this position?
Okay, thank you for that question. I believe that I can contribute to thoughtful research-based educational practices, which consider how teachers and students can best interact and succeed. My background of varied teaching experiences, both in the United States and Mexico, my experience in choosing and creating curriculum K-12 and for adults in ESL, my understanding of the challenges faced by immigrant students and families, and my understanding of language study and acquisition, I think uniquely qualify me for board membership. Thank you.
And I just had a text from Board Member Anderson. If you can get a little closer to the mic, it would be helpful for
sure.
her. Thank you.
Okay.
Dr. Gonzalez.
What do you see as the basic purpose of the public schools, and what is the role of the school board in the fulfillment of that purpose?
Is your mic on? Did you hit the button? Is it green? Is there a green light? Okay. It just somehow sounded quieter that time, but yeah, maybe just get a little closer. Thank you.
The basic answer is education, no? It's green. Oh, okay, now it's very green, sorry. Okay, my apologies. Education, as I said. And the definition of what that entails has greatly expanded over the years. Schools should be a safe place to explore ideas, to learn socialization skills, to make mistakes, and to learn from them, to grow into successful adults who can navigate the complexities of our current society. And the school board carries the responsibility to create policy and prompt practices that encompass the aforementioned goals and others to assure student success. It's a daunting task. Thank you.
Board Member Anderson with question 3.
What do you see as the key strengths of Santa Fe Public Schools, and what are the main weaknesses? What are your priorities if you are appointed, and how would you approach accomplishing them?
Santa Fe Public School program offerings to educate and enrich the student experience are very impressive. Schools in District 4 have a broad variety of programs listed, but I'm curious to know about the percentages of student population participating in those programs. What is the program's effectiveness, and how is success of those programs being measured? I also wonder if the extensive list of programs and school descriptions are operating consistently. To hire faculty and administrators, salaries should be examined for competitiveness. They should support housing through grants or subsidies that could be explored perhaps partnering with the 3 affordable housing entities to secure housing options to hire teachers. And regarding attendance and tardiness, which I had noted as another big issue, perhaps there could be community liaisons who have background in social work who can contact and meet with parents when parents are available. Meeting in neutral spaces such as libraries or other community spaces, in cafes, in coffee shops, or even in fast food restaurants might be an option. It will take money and commitment. And I think that the community committees, the interaction that is being built is something that should be extended. Again, just listening to the local news reports and speaking to the community, teacher shortages and attendance timeliness and expanding communication between the school and the community seems to be some areas that could benefit from more.
What are the jobs and responsibilities of board members, and how would you approach the role? In other words, please describe what kind of board member you would be.
Thank you. Board members make a time commitment, a commitment to engage with schools in the district that they represent through conversations with administrators, parents, students, and teachers. They're thoughtful and they make research-based decisions about policy and practice. They work with all involved parties and are receptive to ideas. They work as a team of community representatives of all districts, and they provide the best possible public education. That would be my approach.
What do you see as the most important aspect of representing District 4 constituents when making decisions that impact all students?
I realize the importance of communicating with community members, again by meeting with leaders in the community, with parents and students to hear their concerns. I am aware of the constant fight for equity in schools, and where many families who live below the poverty level of income don't often speak up, and they're either out of embarrassment or fear, and I would be their voice, and I will actively represent them if appointed.
How do you see yourself working with the superintendent and team? Please include how you would approach dealing with community concerns and issues raised about specific schools and student experiences.
The superintendent, as the head of all the schools, needs the board's support. There must be a comfortable rapport between him and the board, or her, in this case, him. When issues arise, it is important to listen and to investigate. Parents and students in the Santa Fe Public School District have the 3 levels of reporting concerning issues, and the process is in the handbook. However, to assume processes are common knowledge, I think would be an error. Discussion with the superintendent and among board members is necessary for any serious issue. If contacted directly by an issue that has not gone through procedure, It's a board member's responsibility to redirect the individual to the beginning level, the lowest level of administration, and start there, while reassuring the person who's come to you that processes are in place.
Board Member Anderson with question 7.
I'm sorry, I unmuted the wrong thing. What issues do you currently feel the school board and Santa Fe Public Schools are not addressing? And do you have any solutions you hope to implement to resolve these concerns?
Thank you. Recently, racist comments to area students was publicized in the paper, and that came as a surprise to me. And this was specifically, I believe, as I read, directed toward black students in the school district. While Santa Fe Public School has been providing anti-racism training, it's apparently not reaching deeply enough into the student body and faculty. If individual school administrators are not adequately addressing issues to the point that 6 different parents have reported publicly, it's time to delve deeper into anti-racism practice among teachers and students. And I would say there's serious work to be done. If there's a hesitancy on anyone's part to report these issues to the proper administrators.
Thank you. How does your vision for board membership align with or differ from the mission, vision, and core beliefs of Santa Fe Public Schools, and how might you like to see this evolve?
I believe that the mission statement and the vision are in alignment with my values. I would point to well-chosen words, and my question would then be, how are these being evaluated in practice?
You stated that you are committed to running for this position in the next election. Please tell us about that commitment and what do you most want the community to know about you as a candidate for this position?
Thank you. When I make a commitment, I keep it. I'm well aware of the time and effort required to effectively serve on a board of education. It isn't just showing up for meetings. As an experienced educator, I have experienced many different school environments. I have seen problems occur and I've participated in resolutions. I've experienced open, receptive leadership and leadership that dictated. I have ideas. I question the thought behind decisions that come up for review, and I am not fearful of expressing my opinion.
Okay, thank you very much. That was our final question. Again, we appreciate you coming forward and being willing to step up to represent District 4.
Thank you very much.
We're ready for Jody Wheeler next. Oh, yes, and Ms. Blondes, you're welcome to stay in the room now. I didn't say this before you all left, but once you've completed your interview, you are welcome to remain in here with us.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Wheeler. Thank you so much, as we've said to our candidates before, for your willingness to step up and fill this role on the school board. Public service is something many of us take very seriously, and we appreciate what it takes. It's not easy, and really want to thank you for your willingness to serve and for your long service on our Community Review Committee, formerly, of course, the Citizens Review Committee, but affectionately known as the CRC. And we know you know a great deal about our public schools, in particular our facilities, from that experience. But thank you for all of that time and energy that has gone thus far. Okay, we will go ahead and start off this interview this time with Dr. Gonzalez.
Hello there.
Hello.
Why do you want to be a school board member, and what makes you uniquely qualified for this position?
Well, I'll be quite honest. When this first happened, being a school board member was the furthest thing from my mind. I would never have thought of
I'm
myself.
sorry, let me just pause you there, because
Yes.
I know that the mic is an issue for
Oh.
Board Member Anderson. So yeah, if you could just pull it closer
Okay.
or get closer.
We'll get closer to it?
That's good, thank you.
Okay, does that help? So to start, and I'm going to be honest, I wasn't sure about being a board member. It was the furthest thing from my mind. But when the position for District 4 came available, I had teachers, I had prior students, I had parents reach out and say, Jody, you got to do this. You have been a voice for District 4 since you started with your kids in school. So I decided, well, I guess I ought to take them serious and put my hat in the ring. And I did. And I believe that my 26 years of involvement at the school and district levels makes me qualified to be a board member. I've seen the issues facing the district from both a parent's perspective as well as from the perspective of the CRC. As Board President Noble spoke about, I have been on the CRC for a number of years. I have been chairing the CRC for the last 5 years or so, and part of that responsibility that we are charged with on the CRC is going and making recommendations to the board as to how the $100 million in GO bond money is distributed. And with that, I have a working knowledge of the district. I know the enrollment trends. We've had specialists come in and talk to us about it. The programming needs at each of the schools. I also am very well aware of the physical conditions of each of our buildings. And I will put a plug in to say Santa Fe Public Schools buildings are some of the best in the state of New Mexico, and that has come from our contractors telling us so. Because of this experience, I feel that I'm uniquely qualified to be a board member.
Board Member Anderson with question 2.
What do you see as the basic purpose of the public schools, and what is the role of the school board in the fulfillment of that purpose?
I feel that the basic purpose of the public schools is to provide a quality education to each and every student, preparing them to become productive citizens. The school board is charged with developing educational policies for the district, as well as reviewing, approving, and supporting the district's education plan for the student success. Not every student will go on to a 4-year college. As a school board, we must provide every student with a solid foundation to succeed no matter what path they choose.
What do you see as the key strengths of the Santa Fe Public Schools, and what are the main weaknesses? What are your priorities if you are appointed, and how would you approach accomplishing them?
Well, I can tell you that my family and some of my friends are probably sick of hearing me be a cheerleader for Santa Fe Public Schools because we've got some great accomplishments. And our strengths as a district is that we have a progressive and forward-thinking approach. This goes back to when the tragedy at Sandy Hook happened.
our board took immediate action to secure our schools. And now it's a standard practice when constructing or remodeling any of our buildings that these safety measures are implemented. Our sustainability, electric buses, turf instead of grass, solar arrays, all of these have put cost savings back into our operational budget in the thousands of dollars. Also, our pandemic response. Because of the EdTech note issued a few years ago, our district had laptops and tablets available for our students to roll out. We weren't behind other districts in the state when we were trying to figure out what we were going to do with online learning. We created outdoor spaces, outdoor classrooms, which, by the way, are amazing. We installed air purifiers in all of our buildings that turn over the air and make it safer for our students to be there. We've created choice for our students' education, creating pre-K to 8th grade, helping keep families involved because they're there a little bit longer, supporting and developing the development of our eco school as well as Mandela. We give parents a choice to figure out what is the best path for their student and their child. Our main weakness, it's the difficulty in recruiting and retaining teachers. And that would be my first priority, is to figure out, I'd love to find ways to work with the city and the county to provide affordable housing for our teachers. In the early 2000s, the city of Santa Fe had to address an extensive drought issue by requiring the contractors to complete a certain number of toilet retrofits before they received their permits. At that time, I was working for a plumbing company, and let me tell you, we did quite a few of them in order to be able to do our projects. I'd propose a similar program to be implemented for affordable housing for teachers. No permit unless a set number of houses or apartment units need to be designated for teachers. And the caveat on that is that there would be a clause that the contractor or developer could not buy out of that agreement, that it would be a mandate that it has to be done.
What are the jobs and responsibilities of board members, and how would you approach the role? In other words, please describe what kind of board member you would be.
Some of the key responsibilities of the board members are to employ and evaluate the superintendent, review and approve the annual district budget, and oversee the properties of the district. As a board member, I would like to think that my background as an accountant and an HR manager would be a resource in assisting the district staff and other board members as these duties are being carried out. I see myself as being the board member that is very collaborative.
What do you see as the most important aspect of representing District 4 constituents when making decisions that impact all students?
By representing the concerns of District 4 constituents, overall consideration must be taken into account as to what the impact will be on the district as a whole. Can the district support the decision? Does the decision create equality for all? Decisions that, when they're created, have ripple effects. And we need to assess the effects on the district and its students. What are those effects going to be 7 months from now? What are they going to be 7 years from now? We have to consider all of it. We can't just go and plug out one district over another. It has to be a whole approach.
How do you see yourself working with the superintendent and team? Please include how you would approach dealing with community concerns and issues raised about specific schools and student experience.
I would like to see myself as a collaborator, an additional resource for the superintendent and team. And depending on what the concern or issue is would determine the approach. Some of the approaches that I've had to use in the past is we had an elementary school that smoke alarms, fire alarms were not working. As a parent, I reached out to my board member, I reached out to a deputy superintendent, all of whom have long gone, and it wasn't getting resolved. At that point, I had no choice. I reached out to the county fire marshal who came in. The issue was resolved. My first approach is to work collaboratively, start at the base, go to the person that can fix it, and if not, continue to work my way up the ladder until an issue is resolved. If there's a personnel or a safety issue, immediately need to contact the superintendent, let them know. I had an issue come up when my niece was in school. My sister was at wit's end and didn't know what to do. And working through my board member and then with the superintendent, we were able to go and resolve the issue and have them implement procedures in place so that going forward, no other student would have to encounter what she did.
What issues do you currently feel the school board and the Santa Fe Public Schools are not addressing, and do you have any solutions you hope to implement to resolve these concerns?
One of the first issues that I have is teaching of life skills. How to balance a checkbook, how to change a tire, how to fill out a job application, how to read a contract or even apply for a loan. I would like to see that life skills are incorporated into every student's curriculum so that when they graduate high school, they've got these basics down. Another one is the issue of cursive writing. We're doing our students a great disservice by not making cursive writing part of their education. There are generations of students that are not able to read the original Declaration of Independence or their favorite recipe from their grandma. I would welcome an opportunity to learn how curriculums are developed and to work with the people developing these curriculums to make sure that we get these skills put in there.
How does your vision for board membership align with or differ from the mission, vision, and core beliefs of Santa Fe Public Schools? And how might you like to see this evolve?
I fully support the vision and core beliefs of Santa Fe Public Schools, providing every student with a quality education that promotes diversity and equality should be viewed as fundamental right. I support choices in education, and as I've mentioned earlier, not every student's going on to a four-year college. For those that choose a different path, my goal would be to ensure they have a solid foundation on which to build. We have a number of graduates from Santa Fe Public Schools that didn't go on to a four-year college, and they've become business owners, and they're employing other students, apprenticeship programs. I want to make sure that they have that foundation to be able to become a business owner if they so choose. As the saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. By involving our community members, we can continue to ensure that that mission evolves.
You stated you are committed to running for this position in the next election. Please tell us about that commitment and what do you most want the community to know about you as a candidate for that position?
When my children started school, I was given advice to get and stay involved in their education. That was 26 years ago, and I'm still involved. I'm not going anywhere. I plan to help out in whatever aspect the district needs me in. It's a bit different now because I do volunteer at the district level and I'm not involved at the schools. But again, it comes back to the educating of our students. And I want to continue to be a part of that village that is educating our students.
Okay. Thank you very much. Again, we
Thank
appreciate
you.
you stepping forward. And you are welcome to stay in the room with us now that you've gone, and we're ready for the next candidate.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. As I've said to the other candidates, and as of course you know, as a former city councilor and longtime public servant, public service is no joke. It's hard. And we really appreciate you stepping forward and being willing to take up this responsibility to represent District 4. So,
Thank you.
yeah, thanks for being here. Let's see, where are we? Dr. Gonzalez started last time. All right, so Board Member Anderson, it is to you with the first question.
Why do you want to be a school board member, and what makes you uniquely qualified for this position?
I'm an advocate for youth and families, particularly youth on the south side. I grew up in poverty. I lived in county housing off of Airport Road till I was 17 years old. I was a teen father. I graduated from Capitol High School. At 18 years old, I started working for Santa Fe County as an animal control officer. I accepted a position in the Planning and Land Use Office shortly after that. Over time, worked my way up to become the Planning and Land Use Director. I became the Deputy County Manager. For a short period, I was the Deputy City Manager, and I finished my career in local government as the County Manager. I've served as a City Councilor, and today, I run the largest youth-serving organization in the city of Santa Fe, whose members attend the Santa Fe Public Schools. I know the administrative role, the elected official role, and the community advocate role. As a school board member, I would be present for families who reside in District 4. I would be supportive of the superintendent, and I would work collaboratively with all of you.
What do you see as the basic purpose of the public schools, and what is the role of the school board in the fulfillment of that purpose?
The basic purpose of the public schools is to ensure a quality education for our students and that they are prepared for college or a career when they graduate from our high schools. The role of the school board in fulfilling that purpose is, again, to support our superintendent, approve a well-thought-out budget, make quality decisions, policy decisions, work collaboratively with the community, and advocate with my fellow school board members on the passage of bonds to keep our schools safe and modern.
What do you see as the key strengths of the Santa Fe Public Schools, and what are the main weaknesses? What are your priorities if you are appointed, and how would you approach accomplishing them?
It's interesting because I would say that a key strength of the schools is also a weakness. And that is, the schools are very good about having bonds passed, upgrading, rebuilding, and in some cases building new schools. But there's a perception that the schools are very weak when it comes to sharing those facilities on weekends and evenings, particularly those that are on the south side. Though, given that, I have seen a greater effort over the last 2 or 3 years for the schools to open up their facilities to the community. And I understand where that perception comes from, and I also understand where maybe in the past there was that attitude about liability and protecting our facilities. When I opened a Boys and Girls Club in the Tierra Contenta neighborhood, I purposely installed a basketball court with a fancy floor, glass backboards, and a light so kids could play on weekends and evenings. And I was told, you need to lock those up when the club's not in service. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm going to keep it open. And I can proudly say that to this day, we have had very little incidents of vandalism. But I engage with not only the club members, but the other kids and teens who play on those courts on the weekends and evenings, and I tell them, these courts belong to you. Take care of them. I also think that the schools can do a better job of celebrating the positive things that they are doing. I am a firm believer in putting out public service announcements and videos that educate the public, and in this case, the public about the schools. I think we could do a better job of highlighting the student athlete, the young actors, the artists, the musicians, the young community activists, the honor roll students, the teachers, and the principals. And we have to do this in both English and Spanish.
What are the jobs and responsibilities of board members, and how would you approach the role? In other words, please describe what kind of board member you would be.
The board appoints or dismisses the superintendent. The board votes and then supports major policies decisions. We approve a budget. And one thing I read in the information that was provided is we actually are responsible for handing out diplomas at high school graduations. Because I've held many different positions, including being an elected official, I know that my role is to advocate for parents and students who live in my district, but that advocating is to the superintendent and to my fellow board members. If a parent or student brings an issue or concern to me, I will go to the superintendent with it. I also have a large network of family, friends, and supporters. I would constantly be encouraging them to support our schools, whether that be through volunteering, coaching, or donating to teams and clubs.
Aspect of representing District 4 constituents when making decisions that impact all students?
I think one, ensuring that I'm educated on the issues facing the school district as a whole, and making sure I keep the superintendent informed and the other board members of the issues that District 4 residents and students are bringing to my attention. I'm a big believer in creating relationships and having a constant dialogue with the people I work with. I would attend functions and community meetings in other districts and invite board members to attend meetings in my district. And of course, being aware of quasi-judicial and quorum rules, I would always follow, but again, I'm a firm believer in communicating with the people that I serve with.
How do you see yourself working with the superintendent and team? Please include how you would approach dealing with community concerns and issues raised about specific schools and student experiences.
I would bring issues directly to the superintendent. I would never meet with his staff without his knowledge and consent or him being present. I have been an elected official. Like I said, I've been a county manager. I've held several different department director roles in government. I know the rules of engagement, and a superintendent is in place to protect the school employee and the board. As for the team, it is the superintendent's team. I support the superintendent, and he supports his team. If I disagree with something that the superintendent, a decision he has made or a specific issue, I will let him know, and I will let you know. But then we would all move on to the next issue, and I would continue to support him.
What issues do you currently feel the school board in Santa Fe Public Schools are not addressing? And do you have any solutions you hope to implement to resolve these concerns?
I've served with newly appointed and newly elected officials, and I've learned, being one myself, not to go in and act as if you know something that the existing board and administration doesn't already. For example, I could say things like, we need to build affordable housing for teachers, we need to raise salaries, but you all know that and you are all working on that. But if I had to say something that I would like to see improved, I would say public meetings between the city, the county, and the school board. We have an expired MOU with the city of Santa Fe. we need to get together with them and we need to talk about issues specifically in District 4 related to parks and trails. When I was a city councilor, I went to a trail visit, and this actually wouldn't be in District 4, but there's a trail leading to Camino Real that the kids cut themselves. And it's not safe, but that's how they walk to school. We need to have the city of Santa Fe make that trail a priority. And so I think one thing that I'm proud to say I have built over the years is a reputation that I work well with others, especially elected officials. And I think that if I was appointed to this board, I could help create a more regular dialogue between the city, the county, and the school board. The city and counties are making decisions every day that have a direct impact to our schools, and they need to know that. And I'm sure there's things they're frustrated with the schools about. So again, I think I have the ability and the relationships to be able to pull different elected officials together and start a dialogue.
How does your vision for board membership align with or differ from the mission, vision, and core beliefs of Santa Fe Public Schools, and how might you like to see this evolve?
I would like to see more collaboration between the schools and other youth-serving organizations. This past spring, I was invited to a meeting with the school district as the director of the Boys and Girls Clubs regarding our summer program. To be honest, the meeting felt a little rushed, and there was no follow-up afterwards. But at the same time, it was a good start. I've been the director for 11 years, and that was the first time a superintendent had actually reached out to us and asked us about our programs and what services we could provide to our children. And so I would like to see us build off of this. The schools can't do it all by themselves. There are a lot of organizations, specifically on the south side, who can help keep our kids engaged and in school.
Sorry, I unmuted on the wrong thing again. You stated that you are committed to running for this position in the next election. Please tell us about that commitment and what do you most want the community to know about you as a candidate for this position?
I'm passionate about my community, our youth in particular. Whether I serve for 18 months or 8 years in this position, I will do my best to make a positive impact. Everything I have done in my life has been with the intent of leaving the place or the people better off for having worked with me. As I stated in my cover letter, as the director of the Boys and Girls Club, I opened a club on the south side where there was none. When COVID-19 hit and the schools closed, I opened my club so that children would have a safe place to go and attend school virtually. I was a city councilor for only 3.5 years, and I secured funding for and got a teen center under construction in my district. The city had been promising that for at least 10 years before I got on the council. Most recently, I opened a teen resource center in the Santa Fe Place Mall, where their teens are getting after-school help with tutoring, they're getting dinner, seniors are going for lunch to get a free lunch that only have to attend school half day. We have job fairs on a regular basis with the city and county and the state. We're bringing driver's ed, and I hope to start a career training program based in virtual reality. So if you choose me to fill this vacancy, I will work hard to help all of us make the Santa Fe Public School District better than before we got here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And you're welcome to stay here now that you've gone and we're ready for the next candidate. Welcome, Mr. Baca.
Good evening.
Good evening. As we've said to all of the candidates, and you are, of course, last but not least, we really appreciate you coming forward and being willing to serve in this position. We, of course, all take public service very seriously. We know that it can be a difficult job, and we really appreciate anyone who comes forward and is willing to do this, and we're fortunate to have you and all the candidates here who have stepped up, so thank you so much. We started with Board Member Anderson last time, so I guess this is me, starting with question number 1. Why do you want to be a school board member, and what makes you uniquely qualified for this position?
So my very first job was working here in 1995 for the superintendent, the associate superintendent of human resources, Vicki L. Sewing. And I was very fortunate to attend Santa Fe High. And back then we had the classes that were co-op. So I would go to my first class, which was 0 period at 7 a.m. in the morning, and work 2 hours. Go to school for 2 hours, and then I'd report here for my work. And walking into this building and walking into those doors and seeing this has always been my dream. I was very fortunate to work for Richard Buzzy Padilla. I was his court clerk when at the magistrate court. He was a school board member. And so I've known a lot of people throughout my time here in Santa Fe, but coming in this room and seeing local people sitting at these chairs has always been a dream. So with that being said, the reason why I want to be a school board member is because it gives me the opportunity to represent groups in the community to ensure that others have a voice in making educational and administrative decisions. And I've always enjoyed working with administrators and educators. All my positions I have held have been in state and local government. I currently work for the New Mexico State Land Office, and many people don't know what funds hospitals and the public schools. Our office is the one that funds hospitals and Santa Fe public schools and every public school in the state. It's very nice to be able to work in an office to see the revenue that comes in through the New Mexico State Land Office through trust lands. So I'm very fortunate to know that much. What makes me unique is that I'm determined, I'm dedicated, open-minded, and a confident person.
What do you see as the basic purpose of the public schools, and what is the role of the school board in the fulfillment of that purpose?
The basic purpose is to ensure that every student has a safe and high-quality and engaging education. The role of the school board member is to be fair and adhere to local laws within the district by listening to the concerns of the community, administrators, and educators, and supporting all three by acting on those concerns.
What do you see as the key strengths of the Santa Fe Public Schools, and what are the main weaknesses? Second part, what are your priorities if you were appointed, and how would you approach accomplishing these?
The key strengths are the graduation rate has increased to 86% and is continuing to increase. Another positive is that during COVID, the staff and the administration rolled out laptops and iPads to the students so they can continue to learn. That's not an easy job, and I give a hand to all of the administration for that. As a sports official, look at what we've seen come in the future or present from before. You guys have taken most of the grass out of sports facilities and have implemented turf. That's saving water. Those are all positives that the school district has done. As far as weaknesses, well, we know what that is, and that's the teacher rate, the teacher vacancy rate. What can we do to get people to come and apply for the Santa Fe Public Schools? And so, with that being said, I would want to try and see if we could be like the city of Santa Fe and try to incorporate sign-on bonuses for our administrators and educators. The educators that want to come in and work for us, and the current ones that are currently employed, maybe give them some assistance for them to want to pursue their education more. Those are things that I see as a weakness.
Board Member Anderson with question 4.
Thank you so much. My apologies. What are the jobs and responsibilities of board members, and how would you approach the role? In other words, please describe what kind of board member you would be.
So the powers and the duties of the board member are as follows. They employ and evaluate the superintendent of the schools. They review and approve the annual budget, issue general obligation bonds, and award high school graduations, diplomas for the people that have successfully completed their high school. People say that, oh, that can't be too hard, but when you're sitting out on a football stadium in 95-degree weather in a black robe, you'll have second thoughts about that. But, and many more are reviewing the expenditures and the revenue of the Santa Fe Public Schools. I'd approach the role seriously, but I'd also like to joke around. Many people that are in sports, like Coach Morano over here, and these people back here, know that I am very personable. I like to joke around at certain times, but I am serious when it comes to something more of a serious nature. I'm open and honest. I have an open door policy. And I would have an open door policy for all the constituents at District 4. I'd be positive, responsible, and stay focused on the children in the district.
Thank you. What do you see as the most important aspect of representing District 4 constituents when making decisions that impact all students?
District 4 is a very challenging district. District 4 has lots of poverty and low-income families. Keeping the communication open with the parents and families in this area is key. If families in the district need assistance, we need to be able to assist them by providing them resources within our community.
Thank you.
How do you see yourself working with the superintendent and team? Please include how you would approach dealing with community concerns and issues raised about specific schools and student experiences.
I have only met the superintendent maybe once or twice. And when I did meet him, it was when I was applying for the Northeast Regional Varsity Assigner for the NMAA to assign all the football games at the varsity, junior high level, freshman, and so forth in this region. I met him once. I do normally see him, and he's very busy, normally during sporting events. I know his dad, because his dad was athletic director in the Rio Rancho and Cleveland schools, and they come from a very, very good family. The superintendent is very respectful, along with the board. I am a team player. As an official, we have a crew for a game and a contest that we are assigned. As a crew, we have to become one. So most people think there's two teams on the court playing. There's three. and that's the officiating side of it. We have to work together to get the calls right and be honest with each other when we do mess up. And believe me, we do mess up. This is how we succeed as officials. We succeed by our mistakes. As far as part two to the question, we have to listen to the concerns and analyze what is being said, then investigate and see what the concerns or issues are. Reach out to our fellow board members for advice. Before any answer can be given, we have to come together as one and make a decision if there's any problems or if there's anything that needs to be changed.
What issues do you currently feel the school board in Santa Fe Public Schools are not addressing? And do you have any solutions you hope to implement to resolve these concerns?
I don't think there's any issues with the school board. This is more towards the school district, and as far as in the schools, I think we lack life skills. Like I said, my very first job here in Santa Fe was working here for the public schools, and I think that District 4 has a lot of students that are going to school and going to work, and who helped them fill out their application? Was it a teacher, or did they just wing it, or did the employer help them? I believe that is one weakness that we can focus on and try to get better. These kids go to school, they go to work, then they get a paycheck. What do they do from there? We don't have those life skills in our schools. From what I have heard and seen, the board communication is awesome, and they're a great team. And they are doing the best that they can with the resources that they're given.
How does your vision for board membership align with or differ from the mission, vision, and core beliefs of Santa Fe Public Schools, and how might you like to see these evolve?
My vision does not differ from what the Santa Fe Public Schools vision is. I strongly agree with the mission of safety, and that should always be number one priority. We in the Santa Fe have diverse students and ethnicities, and we have to treat everyone equal. And the district is using its resources to accomplish this. The vision says it all. One thing I have lived by my entire life is dreams are unlimited. If you put your mind to something, anything can be achieved with hard work and determination. And I say that because when I started umpiring at the age of 13, I progressed and started working high school games. Got really well at that and got noticed. Then all of a sudden the NCAA wants to look at me. And that's a lot of what these student athletes look for. Well, guess what? We work just as hard as the student athletes as officials. And that is one thing that's why I say I've lived, I've lived this my entire life. The dreams are unlimited. I work Division I NCAA softball for 4 of the Power 5 conferences. So a lot of people see me on national television, on ESPN, 95% of the year, in front of tens of thousands of people. And those are just the people in the stands. Those aren't the people that are watching on television. So I agree with the mission, and I agree with the vision of the Santa Fe Public Schools.
You stated that you are committed to running for this position in the next election. Please tell us about that commitment, and what do you most want the community to know about you as a candidate for this position?
Well, like I've stated earlier, I'm a very determined person, and I have a vision for myself to never give up when I don't succeed in something. With success comes many failures. I've learned this through running for magistrate judge. and being a sports official. We learn from our mistakes. As part of my commitment in running in 2023, I already have my webpage. I already have my business cards. I don't know if I have my campaign manager because this guy over here might steal him. Talking about Mr. Abip. But I want people to know that I'm here in the community and that I will listen to their concerns in District 4 and the entire district. And we'll continue to work hard for our youth and watch them succeed in life through the vision of our district.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, we appreciate you coming forward and being willing and able to take up this position.
Thank you.
So, board members, if anyone wants to make comments, they are of course welcome. What we have before us, also in our packets, is a candidate ranking form, which was a way for us to see if there's some consensus here about a member, about one of our candidates to appoint tonight. Again, I would say if anyone has qualms or questions or feels we need to add anything to this process, we did build ourselves a little bit of flexibility in terms of timing. So I would ask to hear about that. But otherwise, I would propose that we each circle on our candidate ranking form our first and second choice. Then fold the paper in half vertically from top to bottom, and then hand these to the superintendent, who will shuffle them up and give them to me, and I will tally. The superintendent will also come off speakerphone, and he will complete a ballot for Board Member Anderson if there is no proposal about or comments on how to do things differently.
Board President Doble.
Go ahead, Board Member Anderson.
Thank you. The superintendent and I discussed me texting him the names so that he doesn't have to use the phone. Is that appropriate? Does that work for anyone? Otherwise, we can use the phone.
I think that's fine. Superintendent's giving a thumbs up. No problem there. Okay, we'll go ahead with this exercise.
Board Member Anderson, just checking you're with us.
I sure am, yeah.
Great. Okay. I will say what I see on the ballots in a moment. First, as a point of privilege, I'm going to say a few more things. Because, you know, you get to, and this is really, really important. We are looking at 5 incredible candidates for District 4 representation on the school board. And that is really something to celebrate in this community. I am personally blown away by the resumes, records, life experiences of all 5 of our candidates here. And it's truly emotional that all of you want to be on the school board, and really says something about the passion for education in this district. We heard a lot of good ideas tonight. I was encouraged to see the superintendent taking lots of notes, and I know that he will have listened and be paying attention, as will many of us, to the ideas that were shared, even if you are not the board member who is appointed to the board. We have an incredibly diverse and amazing district in District 4. The resilience, the language and culture richness is really incredible, and I certainly hope that all of you will stay engaged and involved in our schools, in advocating for the students and families in District 4, and working to bring the community resources to wrap around our students and families and knit our community more closely together. That was certainly a theme that ran through a lot of comments tonight. As you all know, this is a complicated job. We have power as a board, not as individuals. We need to work together. We have activities that we oversee and budget for that range from running bond elections to facilities, and of course, collective bargaining and working with our unions and our staff members to build a strong team and a strong culture. We heard a lot about family engagement and communications from the district, celebrating what we do, and even where we are now and where we go in the future, because our world is changing. It's always changing, but it does feel as if we're at an accelerated moment where we need to really work on being intentional of charting the path forward for education and teaching and learning in our community, which is the core function of course, the public schools. So what we have said, and I'll just check on everything. We'll see how this goes after this next section, and if we do in fact vote to appoint a board member, and whether, and we did say the term begins immediately. We will work on a swearing-in ceremony at the next board meeting and that sort of formal thing, but when the board votes on this, that is the appointment that makes it official. And we really do want to see, as we've stated, every candidate here said that they were willing to run for election in the next election for this position. And there is so much to learn It is so complex. You wish you could do more and wave a magic wand a lot of the time, but as again we saw through these interviews, it's working as a team, it's working as a community, and sometimes that can be frustrating and difficult. And the point being that length of service does matter, and you get better at it, as you do with any job or role that you take on. So really hope that we'll get someone who will, I know that we will get someone who will passionately represent District 4 and work with this board. And 18 months can be a long time in life sometimes, but we do want to see somebody run for this position in the next election. Does anybody else want to add anything here?
Madam President.
Yeah, go ahead, Secretary Bozé.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent. I just would like to extend again another thank you to everyone who spoke tonight. I know that it's not always easy, and thank you for being willing, for the care and concern that you have for our community and for the work that you do every day. It's really valued, it's important, and I know that they and we will be well served with any of you. You're wonderful candidates. Thank you.
Yes, we'll go ahead with you, Board Member Anderson, and then Dr. Gonzalez.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to echo your comments and the comments of Secretary Bozé. I think we have 5 really incredible candidates. I mentioned at our last meeting, I hoped it would be a very difficult decision, and now I'm sort of kicking myself because this is such a tremendously difficult decision. I also want to extend a big thank you to Earth Care and to the youth of Earth Care for coordinating a forum and a questionnaire in such a quick manner that was incredibly valuable. I watched the forum and I read all of the questionnaires, and it was really helpful to get to know our candidates better, and particularly through the eyes of that organization. So I just want to say thank you to everyone involved, particularly the youth, and thank you to everyone who made public comment and to everyone who emailed us as well. And thank you to Dr. Weaver for ensuring that I was able to attend today's meeting, even with COVID. So thank you so much, Dr. Weaver.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't think there's much to add, but I do want to also congratulate all of the candidates. I was so impressed when I read your resumes and you are amazing, and I think any one of you could be an excellent board member. So thank you very much for stepping up and doing this with us. Thank you again.
Superintendent.
Thank you, Board President Noble, members of the board. Want to thank all the community members who came out tonight. This is the best turnout we've had for any of our board meetings, so thank you guys. Earth Care, thank you for putting on that public forum last night and working in such a short manner. I know I got you the names and numbers on Friday, and you put it together shortly after. Candidates, we appreciate you guys submitting all your information in a timely manner, and we didn't have to disqualify any of you for something that went missing. So my invitation to you, if you're not chosen, please work with me and my team so we can really work on some of these issues that you brought forward. I did take a lot of notes on every one of the candidates. I know my team was actively listening and taking notes. So we were here, we were listening, and we want to continue to collaborate with you. So again, for those that are not chosen as a new board member, please reach out, stay in touch, and let's continue to work on this together.
Okay. And again, thank you to all the community members who are listening, who are here, and who've engaged in this process. And I appreciate that, Superintendent. It is no small thing that we have 5 qualified candidates and all of the documentation in order for everybody. So thank you, because this did come together quickly. So to the results of our ballots here. We have one candidate who received a 1 or a 2 from all 4 board members, 2 1s and 2 2s.
We have one other candidate who received 2 1s and 2 candidates who received 2s. So the candidate who received a 1 or a 2 from all 4 board members is Romana Beta. And so I want to put that forward to my fellow board members to see if there are any questions or comments at this stage. Hearing none, and seeing what I see as a relatively clear agreement among 4 board members, I guess I will go ahead and make a motion that we appoint Roman Abeta to represent District 4 on the Santa Fe Public School Board.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez.
Madam President?
Yes, go ahead, Secretary Bozay.
In the spirit of ranked choice voting, I'm wondering if there could be a second step.
Go ahead.
Now that we have, well, technically we have one person who has 2 1s and another person who also has 2 1s, that maybe we take those 2 and vote on those as first and second between the 4 of us? Is that possible?
Any? Yeah, go ahead, Board Member Anderson.
If it's logistically possible, I'd really like Secretary Bozay's idea.
Dr. Gonzalez, any thoughts or feelings?
I'm not real clear on, what was the percent, the numbers? How many had 1 in?
Yeah, and I can hand you my tally there. But Mr. Abeta had 2 1s and 2 2s. Another candidate, Mr. Blea, had 2 1s. And then we had other candidates with a 2, 2 2s, 1 2 each.
I'm fine with the selection.
You're fine with the selection as it is, or you want to do another round?
As it is.
Okay. I guess I'm inclined to think it actually sort of muddies the water if we do another ballot. So even though that was not an official motion and suggestion, I think we're split on that. Go ahead, Board Member Anderson.
Hearing again that there are 2 1s for each candidate, I wonder if that might actually split our vote, and perhaps the consensus piece of having 2 1s and 2 2s does make sense. I forgot that there are 4 of us and not 5 of us. So I wonder if everyone's just going to vote the same way again, in which case we won't have a clear consensus, and having a candidate with all 4 of us ranking as either 1 or 2 makes the most sense to me.
That makes sense.
Okay, so, and staying with then the clarity of the Roberts rules, we have a motion and a second. And I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call vote on this one rather than a voice vote because it seems weighty and worth it. And I think what I'm hearing is that both Board Member Anderson and Secretary Bozay are okay with that approach. But is there any other discussion on this or anything else anybody wants to say before we go ahead and do a voice vote? Okay. Well, the motion and the second is to appoint Mr. Roman Abeta to represent District 4 on the Santa Fe Public Schools Board of Education. And now, with appropriate punctuation, we'll go ahead and call for a vote. And Secretary Bozay, I will go to you first.
Yes.
Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Board Member Anderson.
Yes.
And I also vote yes. We have appointed Mr. Roman Abeyta to serve on the school board. So at this stage, I will invite you to come up, take a seat, and say something. If you'd like to, you don't have to. We have a few other things on our agenda, which are fairly simple. No, you got to come up here. And, you know, I think we've said plenty tonight, but again, just want to say to all of you, thank you. Thank you for your candidacy. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time and energy, and please don't stop advocating for the families in your district. Please stay involved. We need all of you. This was not easy. It was wonderful to hear all of you talk about your passion for the Santa Fe Public Schools. So appreciation and huge gratitude to all of you. And congratulations to you, Board Member Abeyta.
Thank you, Madam President. And I said it last night at our closing of our forum. I was so impressed with the quality of candidates. And I was glad to see that no matter what the decision was, it would be a good decision for District 4. And I want to thank you all for giving us this opportunity. I want to thank Mr. Acosta and EarthCare, and I really look forward to serving the students and the families in District 4, and most importantly, I look forward to working with you, Superintendent Chavez, and the rest of the school board. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that was a big piece of work. Thank you, board members. Thank you, superintendent and team. I really appreciate everybody who worked on this, helped us pull it together. Oof, that was close. Also to the law firm of Ortiz and Zamora, who did review what was available publicly in terms of court records, voting records, and some other key pieces of information. So there was a lot of work. There was a lot of work behind the scenes by the district, obviously by EarthCare, by friends and family, and you know, folks engaged around all of these candidates. We did receive a lot of emails, and I had at least a couple phone calls. So, you know, there's been a lot in July that has gone on, and we have a new board member. We have a 5-person board again, which is very good news, and we have representation for District 4. So, moving on our agenda, we have board discussion and possible action item B, reorganization of the board. Now, this is intended to fill the vice president slot, as we now have a president, a secretary, and 2 board members. I would propose we actually push on this and notice it, and if anybody wants to think more about reorganization of the board, so my proposal would be to do this at our next board meeting rather than right now, but I would welcome comments from board members on your sense of that. I'm seeing nodding from Dr. Gonzalez and Secretary Bose. Board Member Anderson?
I was just going to agree. Thank you.
Board Member Abeyta?
I agree. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, on item C, under board discussion and possible action, fiscal year 2022-2023 board committee appointments. Board Member Abeyta, we can get you the
any vacancies for the fiscal year that runs through June 30th, 2023. There is certainly a vacancy on the audit committee that would be someone you could appoint. I don't know about the CRC. And this is something that we keep on our agendas to make sure that our committees are full, given that we have had just a little bit of lag in terms of doing all the nominations. So does anyone have any nominations to do this evening? Also close. Okay, well, I have one, which is I would like to renominate Philip Goodwin as one of my representatives on the CRC. So I'll go ahead and make a motion to reappoint Philip Goodwin to the CRC as one of my appointees there.
I will second that.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second on Philip Goodwin being appointed to the CRC. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving. Yes, go ahead, Board Member Anderson.
I cannot for the life of me remember if I reappointed Denise Rodman to the audit committee, and I'm not sure if we should check and then look at it next meeting, or if I should just go ahead and cover my bases and reappoint her again, if you have any guidance as to what I should do there.
Let's do it.
I don't think you did, but we might as well. It certainly doesn't hurt if we reappoint her, and then we'll have if we appoint her twice.
Doubly appointed.
Great, thank you. She'll be very, very appointed. So I would like to move appointment of Denise Ratman to the audit committee.
I'll second. Any further discussion? Okay, on the motion to appoint Denise Ratman to the audit committee, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we have a couple of those ticked off. Anything else on board discussion and possible action? The other thing I would say, Board Member Beta, this is often and I always welcome any input on how to do the agenda, that sort of thing. Board discussion and possible action has been there for a long time as a place where any board member can bring up an issue for public discussion. So usually it just involves letting me or the superintendent know that you want an item on the agenda for board discussion and possible action. And then we discuss and possibly act, of course.
Madam President.
Go ahead, Secretary Bozay.
Thank you. I don't know if we should discuss this now or put it on the agenda for the next meeting, but I know that we were going to have a follow-up discussion about our board retreat once we had a new board member appointed for some point in August, I think, a retreat.
Thank you very much for bringing that back. That's great. And maybe we can ask the superintendent to do some work with all 5 board members now on scheduling a time and working on the board retreat.
Absolutely. We'll work with each individual board member, looking at some times and some dates. We'll also set up some onboarding meetings with you, Board Member Abeta, and then we'll get you registered so you have district email and access to any information that you require. So we'll continue to work on that as we move through the next few weeks.
Thank you. And thank you very much for bringing that back. Appreciate that. Anything else for board discussion and possible action, or that we want to keep on the radar, mention? Okay, moving on to advanced planning. Looks like we're scheduled for a tentative executive session on August 11th with a regular meeting at 5:30 and a study session on the 18th. Given that that's the second day of school, I would advise against that, but Superintendent, we can see what you and your team need in the way of study sessions, and maybe we can revisit what we've talked about having study sessions for, because that's always a thing. Anything else on advanced planning? Okay. Yeah, good.
With that, I will go ahead and say we are adjourned. Thank you all very much for being here and for your engagement. We really appreciate you. It takes a village.